Alrighty, we're on air and you're on air with Bad Chad. We're going to do a little something today. If you have not seen the Fiero yet, that we painted the bottom pieces, we did paint the plastics on the bottom. I think Jolene's posted some videos on Facebook about that stuff, that we did that. Kind of got, whatever, it does not matter. You can go on Facebook and see that, where the moldings got painted. I'm just going to pull some paper off here so we can actually take a look and see what it looks like. And then I'm going to paint some for you so you can see how I did it. And we'll do it together. So basically what's going on is just going to pull some paper off. Didn't figure that would come off like that. Probably just being a little bit rough. Just being a little bit rough. I'll slow down. What's going on here is when you tape something off, you always should, this is what happens here, when you tape something off, you should run your tape. I'm going to tape that on there for a second. We've got some annoying crows. That's dry. When you tape something off, you will usually run a piece of tape to make the line where you're going to paint, and then you tape your paper and another piece of tape to that. So what you do is you run this first, and then you would run your paper, and then you would tape your tape to this. So first you run your line with your tape, and that's what this is. This is the line that we made with the tape. I'm pulling up on it because I do not want to rip the paint off. I pull down on it. If I pull down like that, it could rip the paint down. So I want to pull it up on it, and I want to go very careful by pulling up on it and take my time. I wasn't taking my time there for a second. I was in a rush. Don't know why. I'm Canadian. So basically there's the first line. You can see the silver on the bottom. We put that on the hoist, and we did it outside, and the reason being is all the dirt. Had to paint it on your face to really get at it to see it. And when it was on the hoist and we were sanding, it was a perfect place, perfect time to paint it. So as you can see right here, we've got paper here taped like this. If I take this off, I'll show you. So you've got a piece of tape that's on top of the tape that we've done. So the paper and the tape is taped to the line that we made. So basically this comes off first, or you can take it off last or whatever, but that's basically how it's done, so you know. So always tape. Look at that, we got paper. That's how it goes right there. You can see how that primer come off that and pulled that right off. I'm hoping that we do not have that problem with the rest of the car. That's not a good sign. Basically what has happened is we have painted the car, or we've sanded the car, and then we primed it. And we're hoping that all the paint sticks underneath the primer. We did not strip the car, and that's what's going on. That's the chance we took, because we sanded the car, and then we primed it, and then we taped it. Right there, where the primer has come off, that means the paint has let go underneath the primer. So we're going to have to fix that before we paint. We'll have to sand it. So we got the back bumper done. We got the 2 quarter panels painted. So we'll take the tape off with the paper. You can see how that's coming off. The paper's taped to the tape. I think we even put a little wider piece on this one. This is our tape that we use for our line. And we'll know how good our line is when we pull it off. Now we got another piece of absolutely disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. And the reason I'm saying absolutely disgusting is because that is pulling the paint off. This was all sanded, obviously. We sanded the whole car, so we've got, as soon as we pull the tape off, it's pulling the paint off the paint that's underneath. Well, there you go, just like that. So what I meant when I first started this car, we said that we had an issue with the paint that was not sanded on the car. That was the issue. So basically, when I put that tape on there, you can see that it still has that issue and the paint underneath of it. So what's going to happen is that's going to have to be sanded again. And it pulled the paint and right off top of the paint. So the primer has stuck to the paint. I just pulled that piece off and threw it on the ground. I'm not sure what it is. It was red on the back side. So we know that the primer did not pull off because, I don't know where I put that. I can show you exactly what's going on. Or I know exactly what's going on. When we pulled the paper off, it had red paint on the back side. So the primer stuck to the paint that we taped it to, but the paint pulled off the paint because when we pulled it off, as you've seen it, it was red on the back side. If the primer had pulled off the paint, that would have been gray. It would have been gray on that side, but no, it was red. So that means that paint has pulled off the paint. Woo! Anyways, that's where we're at. We got the front bumper due. Let's see if we pull off any more. That's what it's about. That's what it's about. So, in all honesty, everything is going to want to be very careful. We were actually outside. Jolene got her motor back yesterday. You've seen that on video, I think. I'm not sure. But Jolene got her motor back, and, you know, we got the pressure washer going. Let's wash the truck. Well, you start pressure washing vehicles with paint on them, you're really taking a chance, you know, using the pressure washer. You can go lightly, yes you can, but in all honesty, you're taking a chance when you put a pressure washer on paint. We have no paint coming off up here so far. That's good. That's good. If we only have that little bit that comes off down the back, I guess it's going to have to, you know, it's happened, so now we have to deal with it. Just going to take this paper off. Now, and I know that everything was sanded because I helped sand it. So basically what's going to go on here is I'm just going to peel this off really, really, really slow because I don't want to peel any more paint off. And it really does take you backwards when that happens. And I'm going to say something. The only thing that would fix the problem that this car probably has is to strip all the paint off it. We're not doing that. This is not a paid job. This is a paint job that we're in for. But basically, the only way to fix something that has happened from before is to take all of the paint off and start fresh. That is the only way to go about it. Right at the present second, it's going good up front here. If we just have the little bit that peels off the back, that'll be fantastic. We have the front bumper all painted. It turned out nice, really did. I was quite impressed. You know, we painted outdoors, and I was quite impressed that you can see we got paint on there. I don't know how that really happened, but that shouldn't have happened. See, that's not paint, that wasn't covered, and that shouldn't have happened, but it did. And we'll have to sand it off. Alright, this is the tape that's on the line. Hopefully the primer stays on or the paint stays on. The primer is stuck to the paint on the top, that's for sure. It's the paint that's stuck to the paint. I keep saying that, but that's what's happening. Alrighty, so, alright, that's good. On this side, we have no paint that's pulled off. We got a little paint that we got to go over right here. We got to sand that back off because that is paint that's went through. We didn't have it taped off right, but we've got everything painted on the bottom. That looks good. But this is an issue. That'll have to be sanded and feathered. It pulled off there and there. That does not make me happy, but that is what it is. And the reason that I'm painting these pieces here, I got a couple pieces I'm going to paint and I'm going to show you. The reason I'm painting these pieces right now is because, I'll show you. I got two pieces right here I forgot to paint. We got the back bumper painted. Got a little piece there we got to feather off. We got the back bumper painted. We got this side louver here painted. We got the front fairing painted. He wants it back original the way it was. Remember, if you can recall, that was red. We've got the door pieces painted, the plastics on the door painted, and we got the plastic pieces for underneath the sill painted. We did not get the fender pieces painted. Forgot all about them. Just found them this morning. What's going to happen is I want to have all these painted and on before we paint the car. We probably could put a little red paint down in there before we put them on, and maybe I might. I'm not sure. But what happens is these moldings, I thought clipped on, as you can see, these door moldings, if we recall, outside paint job, as you see, these goes down over top of the clip and then got a clip on the bottom. So what's going to happen is they'd have to go on the door skin and then push down and be clipped. I'm not interested in dragging the molding over top of the fresh new red paint. Not interested in that. And the reason being is because I don't want to take, say if I took this molding off and I put it down over and then slid it down over, I'd probably scratch my red paint when I put these on. So I want to have these on and painted, tape them off, and then untape them when the car is done being painted. And that way there, I do not have to run the molding over top the red paint. So in actual fact, that goes on, slides down over top of this piece here. Wherever that goes, I'm not sure how that goes, but not sure if that's the one on that. Might go on the other side, but it slides down over these two clips. And I do not want to slide it down over top of the red paint after I paint it. So I want to put these on before we paint the red. Just like the bumper's done, that piece is done, and the back bumper's done. I do not like that. But it's the part of the process that happens all the time. Let's take these two pieces outside. It don't happen all the time. It happens when there's poor adhesion on certain areas of the car, and we knew that when we started it, but we was not stripping it. We were sanding it down to put some primer on it to start fresh. Alrighty, let's do this. Got some paint over here. This is the paint that I used. It's called Metal Pro urethane. So it's a urethane paint, and the paint's called Metal Pro. I got it from my local Napa store. It says that it's direct to metal. It's rust proof and all that stuff. It doesn't really matter if it's direct to metal or rust proof or anything, but it was a cheap silver, fast drying metallic paint, and that's what I wanted. I didn't want anything that took a long time to dry, or that was really just wanted a cheap metallic silver paint that would go on the bottom. This is pretty well the match that'll do it. I'm thinking that what I'm thinking when I bought this paint, it looked like to be the right color. As long as it's paint, we have everything sanded, it'll stick. And you know, there's a lot of comments saying, well, you got to have this flex agents, or you got to have this, or you got to have the adhesion promotion and all that sort of stuff. Well, I'm going to say this. Take some paint, sand something and spray it on there, and then tell me how hard it is to get it off. To say that you need that stuff, you're really not using the old brain, because paint on something to get it off is quite hard to get it off. And for me to think that unless you do not sand it like we have over there, if you do not sand it, then you have the issue. And we had the issue when we first started that car. That's why the car was peeling. And that's why we got to try to sand it down, feather it all off to prime it. But if you sand something and then you paint it, you're going to have a hell of a time to try to get it off. This paint here is 8-1-1, 8 1-to-1. So what it means is 8 parts paint to 1 part hardener and 1 part reducer. So what I'm going to say is, so if I went 4 on the stick, I'd have to go a half and a half. So I'm actually splitting the 8 part paint in half. So I'd have to split the reducer in half and the hardener in half. So I'm going to go 1-to-1 on the stick. I'm going to go 1-to-1. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix 1. I'm going to go up to 1. I'm saying that's going to give me enough paint. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pour a little bit of, I get some reducer. Got a little reducer right here. A little bit of hardener. Just going to pour a little bit in it until it works. Don't need very much. Very simple paint to mix. Very simple to everything, and that's what I wanted. We're going to spray it with a little gun. I'm going to put on a mask. Just looking around here, seeing what I got. Ooh, I still have thinner than that. Just going to take my air hose and spray the thinner through the gun. So when we paint this car, it should be a good one. It should be a barn burner, and I'll say why it's going to be a barn burner, because we're going to end up taping all that silver off to paint the red. And when we do that, and when we have the chance to take the tape off the silver, then we're going to have the exact same process with the prime being able to come off. No, we won't actually. We actually, on the back bumper, we sanded it. On the door panels, they were stripped, so they should be fantastic. They were stripped. These were stripped. And that's it. The rest of them we left on and painted them. So I'm saying if we tape these off, we're going to be not an issue. On the stuff that's on the car, we might have an issue because of poor adhesion from before. And the poor adhesion comes from non-sanding. So make sure that you sand your car good. Sand your nails before you pluck your nails on. And that way they'll stick. Jolene knows. We've got the front end out of the Jaguar here. This is out of the 84. There's the front K-frame, I guess K-frame, whatever you want to call it. It's the front section of the frame. What I like about this, it's got the spring, lower control arm, top control arm, shock mount, control arm, sway bar, and steering, your rack and pinion, all hooked to the front end. So there's nothing that has to be done to that front end to apply to the 59. Other than the 59, all that stuff has to be taken off. And all this has to be do is bolted on or welded on, whatever has to be done. Jolene's engine's over there. She was doing a little bit of pressure washing this morning. That's where the pressure washing come talking up with pressure washing vehicles. Got to be careful. So we got an engine over there for Jolene's Bugatti. We have a few things in our brain that we're going to do, and we're going to take you with us on that adventure. And that's what we're going to do. But I have to paint a few pieces, silver pieces, for the bottom of the fenders, and then we're going to be able to put the doors on, get the plastic pieces put on the door, because we're not going to paint the door skins with the plastic pieces off because we don't want to scratch the paint. And exact same with the fender pieces. We want to put the gray pieces on the bottom of the fenders before we start. Now I'm going to show you the paint process that I did the gray with. And we're just going to paint them right outdoors. Just going to knock that, I got a little piece of stuff in there. Just got two little pieces, should be fine. I'll put a mask on for what the hay. Jolene's got a little BB gun. We're going to chase some crows away. So this is the exact same process that we did on the car, and I'll show you. There they go, just like that. We'll wait for a little bit. We'll do another coat on them. We did not use no flex agent on it whatsoever. And the reason being, I'm saying we're not using no flex agent on it because if the car gets bumped, it's going to scratch the paint anyways. The paint on the vehicle is, what can I say? It's not an armor. You can scratch paint by wiping your hand on it when there's dust on it. So if someone comes in and hits the bumper, flex agent is not going to save the paint. It's not going to save the paint. No, it is not. Basically, that's it. And I wouldn't think that anybody's going to come in and be pushing on it and flexing the panels and doing that sort of stuff, because once that happens, you're going to end up probably destroying the paint anyways. If it gets hit or if it gets bumped, you're going to end up causing damage. So to put flex agent in it, you go buy it if you like to or if you want to, but you'll have to ask yourself, if someone hits it from behind, is the flex agent going to save what's going on? Don't think so. So you can see, got the silver paint on it. It's going to dry fairly quick. We'll put 3 or 4 coats on it, and that's the basis of it. And that's what we did to that. We put 3 or 4 coats on it, got it nice and shiny, and got it on there 3 and 4 coats, got the doors done, got the sills done, but we have to get the fender pieces done. That way there we can knock them on, put the door skins back on, put some red paint on it, fix that, fix the little chip in the back that we got pulled off there. We're really going to have to pay attention and be careful on that. Before I spray the car with paint, I'm going to make sure that all the red is missing. And what I mean by missing is I'm going to cover it up. I might seal it, or I might just come in with some one-step and cover all the red spots so it's all gray. We have no issues, basically. We have Jolene's engine out here. And we have there's a couple issues that are going on. We built the chassis for her car out of a 67 4.2. This is an 84 4.2. We're not sure if the motor, I know the motor mounts are not the same because the motor mounts are there and they're back here. On Jolene's engine, the motor mounts are up here. So we might have a few issues going there. Don't know yet. It's kind of very annoying that we're going through this, or that we have to go through this process because of, I'm not going to say it because very annoying, but this is the engine that we have. I'm thinking that we might, not sure yet, we're going to clean it up. We're going to do the best we can do with what we have, like we always do. Aren't we, baby? Jolene looks amazing today. She got a little Pepsi shirt on, a little bit of belly showing. She got skin on her like a Werther's. She got a little Chuck Taylors on, just as cute as a button. And I can tell you right now that paint dries very fast. It's dry on my thumb already. Like it dries very fast. I know I don't hate to say it, but I would paint a whole car in that silver. I would paint a whole car in that, and that was $40 for that quart. I think it was $40. Very good, very good, very good. I enjoyed it. It covered nice. It didn't, as you can see, when I'm painting that, I'm just painting with high pressure with a little $20 gun, and it's not going foggy. It's not going tiger striped. It's not doing anything. It's going on really nice, and I enjoy it. We took a chance on it and went for it. So we're going silver bottom, red car with satin black moldings. And we're going to hope that the paint holds on. Let's do a little bit more. I'm just going to grab it, put the mask on. I think it's just for that little tiny bit. I'm outside. I don't think it's going to hurt anything. Let me know if you can smell it. Let me know. Yeah, love it. I love it. Just turn it over this way. Just grabbing it by the bottom. Hurt that a bit. Putting the paint right to it. Got a little heavy on here. I'll see. Beautiful. Just like Jolene. Absolutely beautiful. Holding it back a little bit. Getting the metallic lay up there. Whoop, whoop. Pieces are fantastic. Got a couple little scratches on the bottom of them. Not worried about that. And the reason I'm not worried about the scratches on the bottom of them, because if you can see underneath there, when it's painted, you've been run over, basically. So that's what I'm going for. I'm thinking that there's lots of paint on those. I'm going to go out and just look at it one more time. And we can paint it one more time if we want to. And you can see on that, like it's looks good. It's not blotchy. It sprayed good. I'm very happy with it. Probably just leave that just like that. It's got enough paint on it. More paint does not mean you've done a better job. That does not mean that at all. More paint does not mean that. I like just enough paint to do the job. If you are planning on sanding it and polishing it, yes, you want more paint than you need. It's like anything. It's like the primer. I don't know if I explained the guide coat that well when I did it that day, but the reason I put a bunch of coats of primer on the hood, because the hood was checked. What I mean by checked, it had lines in it that were stressed, that were in the paint or in the product of the hood. So when I put the primer on the hood, I put more primer on than I needed. So when it come time to sand it, I have a finish that is worth painting. So as I put the guide coat on the hood, I put the guide coat on, the black spray balm that's really foggy. I put that on there to know if I have sanded the primer enough to take care of any imperfections. So when I was sanding it on this side, you could see the texture like an orange, like it was an orange peely. And when I went to the back and I sanded it, you couldn't tell the texture. But when I guide coated it, you could see the texture in the primer. And I want to get that texture and the scratches out of the hood with the sandpaper that I'm sanding it with, so I have a flat surface to lay paint on. If I sanded it and left the texture of the primer like an orange peel, you would never expect your car to look like glass. It would look like an orange peel. Like, I mean, you're spraying on an orange peeled texture. You're basically going to get an orange peeled texture. So basically what I wanted to do is put the guide coat on to know if I've got that primer flat enough to accept a nice coat of paint. Also, the guide coat shows you any imperfections. It shows you if there's a scratch in the hood. It shows you if you have orange peel in your primer still. It shows you if you had a body fill place where you fixed a dent. It will show you whether it's feathered around the edges, whether it's flat and smooth, so you're able to paint it. What the guide coat does, it allows you to get the best job possible. If you do not use a guide coat, I'm not saying that, yes I am. You should always use a guide coat. It's just one more level of protection to get a good job. That's all it is. Just you're going to be sanding the car anyways. Why would you not put it on there to know for sure that you're getting done what you want to get done to make the car as best as possible? It's there to help you get it straight, because you'll know if it's sanded off here, sanded off here. If it's not sanded off in the middle of it, well then you know that this panel here and this panel here and the center where it's not sanded, you know that it's low. And you are not going to be able to tell if you do not guide coat the car with primer. If I prime the car and I sand the car and I got primer here, primer here, primer here, how would you know if it's low in the center if you never had any guide coat? You know, you say you might be able to see it, but that's not the case. Don't take that chance. Don't take that chance. Put a guide coat on it every time when you're doing something. Put a guide coat on it to know for sure. So we've got the pieces painted gray. I'm going to say that they're good enough. That's good enough. We're going to go with it. Happy with it. We're going to leave it like that. We're going to put them on. If I have an issue with anything, then I will touch them up after the car is painted red. I will touch them up, and that could be hard to do, seeing where it does that. Woo! We are playing with fire. All right, everybody, you have a good one. Always use a guide coat. There's no reason not to use a guide coat. No reason whatsoever not to use a guide coat. It's only for your help and protection of trying to get the best job you can. Always sand your car and try to get that texture. Make sure you sand your car before you put anything on it. We sanded this now. Now we're having an issue with the paint in between the paint that was in between the paint before. But we're going with the silver on the bottom. We're going to be painting the red soon. I'm going to wait till Aiden gets back. Aiden will be here tomorrow. Aiden will be here tomorrow. He's here 3 days a week. I'm going to get Aiden to help me push a few things around, get a few things in order, get Elvis out of the paint room, and then we're going to clean the paint room and put the car in there, and maybe we'll get some paint on. And then I can go over the paint process with Aiden, and he'll be able to learn that. Also, is doing the welding and everything else, because we all know it's, there's the welding part of it, there's the fabrication part of it, there's the priming and the blocking part of it, there's the body fill part of it, there's the painting part of it. It's a very, very, very big process, and I generally try to do most all of it, because to get someone else to do it, it costs lots of money, and it's up to you. If you're willing to put it out there and spend it, and you got it, go for it. I'm happy for you. But in my you know, years of doing cars, I basically had to do it myself or I wouldn't have one. And that's where we're at. I want to show you that you can do it just as well as I can do it. And Jolene looks amazing today, and we'll see you all later. Have a good one.